All right, here we go. Lowell, stand on up for the second annual Billy G 20K Classic. It's going to be taking place on August 12th to the 14th at Lowell Catholic. It's a great event for a great cause. There'll be a dunk tank, video game truck, face painting. I'll be there, and much more. I'm looking forward to this fun and exciting weekend, as should you. So come on by for this event in honor of Billy G. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the show. Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date, and follow me on Instagram at I'm Nathanael Reyes. That's with AEL at the end of Nathaniel. So without further ado, as promised, part 2 of the Lindsey Morris episode. You mentioned about work and 911 dispatcher. You told me that you had to take an exam. What was that like? Was it like a live simulation?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so do you want me to start from the beginning? I feel like I can talk to you all day.
Absolutely. No. Yeah, please do. Please do.
This is going to be one of your longer podcasts.
I'm fine with that.
So I got my letter. I did a tour of the city where I'm working at. I don't know if I should disclose it or
not. No, we're keeping it. You can keep it under wraps. That's okay. Yeah. That's okay.
We both know, but
yeah, we know. We've talked about it.
So I love the city. I originally moved here from Foxborough, and it's totally different from Foxborough. So there's a lot of drama, but it's something to keep me busy every single day. Like, yeah. There's always something going on, and I absolutely love that. So when I first started, I did a tour, and then I had my first day, which was on the 27th of June. Oh my God, I've been there for a month already. Wow. That's crazy. It's like flying by. I'm like, no.
Seriously, it's crazy how fast the time goes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just started like picking up on what everybody else was doing in the room. That's what we call it, the room. And so, or command center. I'll use command center for right now because we don't call it that.
That's cool. A command center.
Yeah, right. So I was just like working with a supervisor for the shift that I work on. And so I just like watch what they do, and then I'd be taking notes on how to like address somebody depending on the station you're at. So we do police, fire, EMS, and we also deal with a lot of other and call taking and like a whole bunch of other outsider companies, depending on the situation, of course. So I went to a 2-day training after I spent a few weeks at City, and I want to say it, but I know I don't want to. Okay, so I spent a few weeks there getting to know the ropes and everything, and just people taking notes, and started to do I started taking calls on my 3rd day working. Third day.
That's intense.
And I already started taking calls because I was just like, okay, this is great. Like, I'm learning everything. I already know how to do everything. It's a lot of customer service based. Like, you want to make sure that any type of phone call that comes in on a business line is handled appropriately. And most of those calls already were, or by every shift, like the first day we had like a crazy violent call. The second day we had like a fire. The third day we had another violent call. And so it was already like kind of freaking me out. I'm like sitting here like, is this what I want to do? Like, can I take this phone call? Like, what happens if something, you never know. And this is one tip that I learned from my training. You never know once you answer that phone, what is going to be on the other line.
Yeah. So
I'm answering the business phone, and my first call was another employee saying that he missed his shift. And I'm like, okay, this isn't as bad. But it was really funny because he thought it was like, you know, when you sleep or you work too many hours and then you sleep and then you wake up at like 5 o'clock and you think it's 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah. I've done that all the time. Yeah.
That's exactly what he thought. He thought he missed the shift. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, at least that was my first call out of the way. Like, nothing bad. And so
that's a kiddie pool. Yeah. You're not in the deep end there. No.
Yeah, not at all. And then I think by the third time I picked up the phone, it was like a trauma call.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's not like something that should have came in on the 911 line. So there's two different phones. There's a business line phone and there's a 911 phone. I'm not allowed to touch the 911 phone because I wasn't trained yet. So I was taking just all the business line calls, writing them down, writing the first and last names, phone numbers, contacts, what's going on. Do you need assistance right now? What's like the story, like motor vehicle accidents, then motor vehicle accidents that don't have injuries. And then there's like, oh my gosh, there's a fire, power lines being down, people with arguing, animal problems, just like the whole 9 yards.
So what's the difference between a 911 and a business call?
So the business line is the non-emergency line. So technically it should be phone calls that are not emergency. But so I'm trying to remember, I should have had my notes in front of me because I like wrote down all the important ones that like I took that day.
Yeah.
Because I was just in awe. I was like, wow, like this is crazy. I'm pretty sure my third call was like a missing person or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? And I had to fill out some paperwork, and then we had to put it out to like the officers and all the surrounding towns. And so the non-emergency line is pretty low key. But when you get an emergency on the non-emergency line, it's like very frantic, like people arguing with weapons or something like that. Like you freak out. You're like, okay, now I got to stay calm because I can't, if I freak out, they're going to freak out. And then it's just going to be a whole thing.
Yeah.
So I was picking up phones on my third day. And then on the fourth day, I started on radio, which was really cool. So I got to be like, this city from the city to whatever car is on the street right now in this area. Can you go to this call? And then this address. So I would just dispatch all the police or all the fire. And so I started on police, and I loved it. And then I started a few days on fire, and then I went to training. So fire is less stressful because they just do what they're told. So for instance, say you have a fire on a street, like A Street, and you're like, okay, there's a house fire on A Street. So you call to the fire trucks that you're going to call. You say like there's like this little thing you have to say first. And then you put like a tone out, and then you announce it. So you say whatever engine, whatever ladder, or whatever type of fire truck you want to send. And then depending on if they need backup, like a supervisor or a chief or a car, you send them to the address, and then you tell them what it's for. And then just simple. I think of it as keep it simple, stupid, the KISS like acronym. Just keep it simple. Yeah. And then when they get on scene, they'll tell you, and then you just repeat back to them, okay, you're on scene. It's going to be for a 40-year-old male having difficulty breathing or something like that. And then they're like, okay. And then they assess and do everything. And usually they're pretty fast because we already have EMS services and stuff like that already on the way. And they get there, and then they're like, okay, paramedics or whoever can take over. And then it just goes, you wait for them to be like, okay, it's all set. We're returning, or we're heading back to the station. And you're like, okay. And that's really crucial for fire, because their arrival time is very important for like the money and funding and stuff like that. So like we have impeccable response time. Like I could send out a call in 5 seconds and they'll be there not even a minute later.
Yeah. I do notice that whenever I've called 911, fire has always been the first.
Yeah.
The first responders.
So
yeah, they really crazy. Are. And they know a lot of stuff too. Like one time I've had to call some sort of like my friend was like just passed out, and like or like from like let me give some context just so we're not scaring people. it was a very hot day. We were biking like 5-10 miles, so it was like,
Hydration.
yeah, dehydration, overheat, and we called, and they were the first, and they knew, okay, you're gonna want to do this, you're gonna want to do this, and then when
Yeah, they give you pre-arrival instructions, which is
yeah,
very important.
and then when the EMS came, they were like, boom, boom, boom. They like knew it. They were so I was fairly impressed with. I mean, I in said city, I would say the firefighters are really impressive there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the police too, like getting to know my officers, they're just all super nice and like super outgoing. If whether they're having a bad day or not, I feel like police they like to talk back to you. So they'll tell you like, "Oh, like what's that address again?" Or like they'll mess with you a little bit and I'm like, "Hey, it's 37 M Street. Like just go." But I didn't it didn't really open my eyes up until I went to my 911 training class
Yeah.
of the safety and awareness of your officers and like how many steps you have to take in order to make sure that their safety is your number one priority, like to make sure they're not walking into a house that we have a previous history at and now they have a weapon on them. So
That's true
going
because you don't know what's on the other end. Yeah, you
no,
really. Yeah, that. Wow.
not at all.
Yeah, that's intense.
And so thankfully going to my 911 class, which is they taught the 2-day class, which was really easy. It was just a little exam that you had to do based on like everything you learned. So it was just like the basics, like the type of symbols that come in on the 911 phone, what type of calls you can get. You can get phone calls, you can get silent calls, you can get text messages, you can get TTY calls, which are for hard of hearing or deaf people when they want to call in. If they're in need of some sort of help, then you do like a little challenge and you go, you just type a specific way. And then we did a lot of call simulation, which was the 2-day exam or the 2-day class. And that was an exam and call simulation. So she would simulate calls and you'd have to answer it. 911, this line is being recorded. Where's your emergency? And then just like go through the motions, which was really fun. My instructor, that was with the state police, so that was really a blast. The instructors there are so nice. They want you to succeed in every single way, and they take the time to like sit down with you if you have questions or concerns and everything. And then after that 2-day training, which I'm glad I did before, I went the next week to get my CPR certification, which is really important too. And that was in downtown. And so that was really fun. And then I went for a 5-day training course, which was like elongated of the 2-day training course, which was really fun as well. And that was also at the state police facility. And we had another really great instructor from what I had back 2 weeks prior. And so he was great. We had like 30 people in our class and we all made connections from all over the state. Like people from Cape Cod were there. People were from Melrose, Attleboro, Springfield, like all over. It wasn't just like one area. It was everybody, like anyone who was dispatching. We had a fire lieutenant in there. In Boston, we had Boston PD, we had Boston EMS. It was just really cool because we got to make all these connections. And we were all like, oh, like seriously, we have to do a training for 5 days. But it was so worth it by the end. And like all of us went out to lunch and we had like an hour for lunch. So we go out to lunch every day and just talk and get to know everyone. Everybody's like slinging back monsters like it's no tomorrow because it was from like 7 to 4.
Yeah.
So it was just a really eye-opening experience because the instructor told us everything that he learned and how we have this new technology and how we're hopefully going to be able to advance because since technology is always changing, the program that they're using right now shows you 2 different phases. So the phase 1 is when a cell phone hits off a cell tower, which could give you an address of the cell tower, but in like a circle, like a radius.
Yeah.
And then phase 2 is where the phone or the person is physically. So it'll retransmit every 30 seconds of their live location. And so he told us this really heartbreaking story about how um, he wanted us to, if we were going to take anything from the training, would be to do ride-alongs to get to know your city or town, and just to see what your officers see and see how where you send them, and the stress that they go through responding to these calls. And then also to always check up on your officers, no matter if you send them on a call for 5 minutes or for 30 minutes. Because he told us this really heartbreaking story of one of his best friends at the time. They didn't have the cruiser mapping that we have now, or the technology that they had now. And something that's a stigma within first responders and nurses and doctors and firefighters and everyone is mental health. And the stigma is that we don't have feelings. We just go, and we're not affected by it. But on my 5th day, I was dealing with a first call that came in as nonchalant, somebody just walking suspiciously. And by the time the 911 call came in, it was the same call, but it was somebody who was suffering like some sort of heart attack and needed like immediately helped, like was going to be med flighted, like the trauma, like it was life or death. And you're sitting there and you're like, do I projectile this on other people, or do I bottle it up and just take it as myself and say like, oh, this, I could have prevented this. And in reality, I thought it was all my fault. And I was like, this guy could have died because I didn't take the call correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sat back and I was like, well, the first call there's nothing I could have done, because the caller didn't tell me this guy's actually having a heart attack. I need medical, or anyone, like send anybody, because you don't know.
Right.
So he told us the story about the maps that they didn't have, and he told us about how his friend was battling severely his mental health, and unfortunately he parked his cruiser in a cemetery and unalived himself. And you don't really think that all these heroes at the end of the day were praised for everything, for the bad calls, the good calls, and everything like that. But I don't think people really understand the stress and the trauma of what you're sent. Like, we send people out there in order for you to not worry every night, or
Right.
for you to not feel like it should not be no matter who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I got into this field because I want to be, at the end of the day, the best person I want to be, but also I want to be able to give people who don't have the opportunity to voice their rights or their concerns a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important. And the same thing with mental health. I think it's really important for all of us. Like, we have amazing staff members that we can talk to, and we can like therapists and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it's no one wants to tell anyone, oh, I'm going to talk to this person because of this call, or like everyone's too afraid to let each other know, like, hey, I have therapy tomorrow at 3:00.
Yeah.
And it's just something that everybody goes through, but they think that just because you're a first responder, you have a job that's within law enforcement, that you don't deal with mental health. And
yeah, that's a valid point. That's a valid point.
It's just crazy to me. And that's why originally, like, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna jump into the field and see where it takes me, because at the end of the day, if I could like impact somebody, whether it's some person on the phone or some person in person, that's like one person that you just like impacted. And no matter what it is, like, because there's a lot of drama and change and a lot of everything that's going through within law enforcement, because there's good, bad, and ugly everywhere. Which is, I don't know, it's an unpopular opinion, but there's good, bad, and ugly everywhere. You just have to not let other people glorify the fact of a traumatic situation or something, whether it's good or bad. You can't let somebody glorify either one to say this is how everyone is, period. And I think that's what
Yeah.
people are going through right now. They're just glorifying the many different stories that, whether, I'm not saying like from my point of view being a part of law enforcement or anything like that, I'm very independent when it comes to my views because I am a woman, and you view the things that you want to view. And I think there's no side really. There shouldn't be sides. It should just be, at the end of the day, what, like, if we're going to be able to make change within the country or within the state, then people need to come together and voice their opinions and have other people listen, because there's a lot of one-sided like views in today's society. And I think that just because, and that's a thing too. So we played, I'll segue this quickly. So we played the game telephone in our training course. And the way that he explained it was, we're going to play telephone, and all of you are it's going to go down the line, and every single person had a different view. And that's how it is. Every person you meet has a different view. Like, you could explain the same scenario to a group of people, and every single person's going to view it differently.
When you put it that way, it's actually true. I always say that you can go ahead and, like, for example, this as we're in this, I can go ahead and donate all the money I have to charity, right? And yeah, there's going to be people that are like, oh my gosh, he's so hospitable, he's such a good guy. But there's going to be one person who's like, what? Why are you doing that? Like, what? Like, so even if you're doing right or wrong, there's going to be someone who's going to have an opinion of it. So it's like, so it's like, you have to kind of, like, like you said, like, everyone's going to have an opinion. Everyone is. And similar to you, independent myself, and for me, I'm just more of like what's right and what's wrong. And if it's wrong, if it's wrong, we correct it. If it's right, we move on with that. And that's where, and alluding to your point about the good, bad, and ugly. Like, for example, I had a knee surgery back in February. Okay, and off topic, but I had a knee. You'll see how it circles back. I had a knee surgery back in February. I have a friend who also had a knee surgery, the same one, and she had it earlier than I did, and she still can't walk. Like, she still has a hard time with it. Now, granted, everyone's bodies adapt differently and things like that, but I'm able to run. I'm doing CrossFit training. I'm doing a bunch of things nowadays, and she's still really behind. And she's like, oh, I think I need to get a second opinion. I share all that to say, there's good officers, there's great officers, there's bad officers. There's good surgeons, there's great surgeons, there's bad surgeons. There's good teachers, there's great teachers, there's bad teachers. So it's like, in every single field you're in, there is good and bad and ugly. And I think when we focus so much on, which it's always easier to focus on bad than good, it just naturally, as humans, we're pessimistic individuals, because, not to get like evolutionary and standpoint, but just when we were first primals, it was, hey, is this a tiger gonna chase me, or is this, is this an easy? So we're constantly always thinking pessimistically, and it still is to this day, because, like I said, we hyper focus on the negative. We're like, oh, nope, they did this, they're bad. Yes, it's bad. Let's work on correcting it, so that way we don't have to have it. But the truth is, and this is a lot of things that I think people also have a hard time focusing on, is they almost like don't want to give grace in the sense of, like, there are some things that are obviously completely out of bounds. But I think when people have one negative experience, they're like, oh, it's just all like that. And for example, and I'll admit, I too was like that when I got pulled over when I was 18 for my first speeding ticket.
I'm
What'd you say?
I said I'm gonna look up your history now.
Yeah, right. No, you'll see it's clean. No, but when I got pulled over for my first speeding ticket, it was one of those things where I was like, man, he was kind of rude, but why? I was being unsafe. Like, point is, I was being unsafe. So he wants me to be safe. so that way I don't do this, because the truth is, would I rather just have a speeding ticket and being like, listen, you need to knock it off,
Yeah.
or would it
Or
rather be me in a courtroom because I accidentally hit somebody because I was so there's steps that we got to take into account, and that's what I mean by grace. I'm not talking about the deplorable actions that happen, and I think everyone knows what I'm talking about when I'm
yeah,
talking about that. But
exactly.
I'm talking about like the day to day, like, oh, I got stopped and this cop was kind
Mhm.
of rude to me, and like you said too, another thing that doesn't get taken into account is that they're people as well, and that they can have
Yeah.
good days, they can have bad days. Their significant other could have argued with them that because they didn't do the dishes, but they had a long night the night prior. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I think we just have to have more empathy towards our law enforcement, but just people in general. Just
Yeah.
if we kind of hold on to that empathy and kind of being like, you put yourself in their shoes. You don't know what they're going through, and you touched base on a really good point. Like that's something, and I'll be transparent. That's something I didn't take into account of the mental health of these first responders. Like that's, and I'll be completely honest with you. It's something I never thought about until you brought it up. So I appreciate that you did, because then it teaches me about, whoa, like that's listen, I'm an everyday Joe and I struggle with mental health. I can't
Yeah.
imagine how a person who I can't imagine an officer who is responding to these traumatic calls and their mental health. So I think it's just one of those things where empathy, understanding, and just acceptance and grace. Again, everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say that,
Yeah.
but just needs to be taken into account for sure.
It's like very interesting to, like, I kind of didn't think twice when I first decided I wanted to go into law enforcement. I was just like, oh, it's just like every day, it's fine. And then the reality sits in when you get that traumatic call and you're like, okay, you sit there. And I took a class in college too with a retired police officer who got shot in the line of duty when he was first year on the job. You take into account of how much that impacts you and what, like, he told us, like, I could have prevented that if my arms weren't up. It was right below his he got shot right below his bulletproof vest.
Mm.
Like, if he was like, if I put my arms down, I would not have like, I would have been fine. And he tells me, like, he told us, like, about his story and just how he suffers from PTSD and, like, the stuff that you go through. People don't think that, like, you would go through that. You think that they're keen to it, that they can just go and respond and be like, okay, fine.
Yep.
Like, it's every day for you.
Yep.
But in reality, like, for me, when I kind of knew that I wanted to go into law enforcement was when they put out a missing child information. And for some reason, this kid just was so. I personally don't like kids, except for when they're other people's kids and they're like tame. But I'm like not one right now for like babies or children or anything like that. But something was making me drawn to this kid. Like, he was 10 years old, 68 pounds, and it was New Year's Eve. And I'm like, okay, who and why haven't we found this kid on one of the darkest nights that a child could ever go missing on?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I kind of knew. I was like, I was driving around the entire city, and thankfully they found him after I like drove around where potentially he could have been in the area. And I knew, I was like, okay, this is why I want to do this, because at the end of the day, you're helping somebody else, but you also need to help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's getting therapy or being able to talk to somebody, or like we were taught within stress and law enforcement just to not be afraid to be open about it. Like, you can have a million bad calls, but that one call is that one good call, like, could change somebody's day immensely.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a million bad calls because it's whether it's medical or a kid goes missing or something. Like, you're gonna have a million bad calls every single day because that's why people call 911, or that's why people call the police, or it's going to be loud music or something like that. Like, those calls, the nonchalant calls, make you feel a little bit better, because at the end of the day, you're like, okay, now I don't have to worry about this 40-year-old man who's having a heart attack.
Yeah.
But I think it's just so important, and when you know, to like be like, okay, I need to step back and I need to talk to somebody. But some people don't. Some people don't know that they need to talk to somebody because they bottle it all up, and I'm keen to be in that way. Sometimes I'll bottle up all my feelings because I think I can just put them on the back burner, and then you bottle them up and then you have an episode and you're just like, I can't do this.
And then at that point, you're not only are you providing a disservice to yourself, but you've also now provided disservice to everyone around you. Yeah, yeah, and yeah. The macho wacho thing. Yeah, I think I'm glad that we're moving more into like a talking about it and being more open about it, because like this attitude of I can do it all, as great. I get it. It's tough, and there are things. Yeah, we are independent individuals, but we also do need to rely on others. I mean, humans are meant to be communal and in a tribe and things like that. So it's like you're meant to have companionship. You're meant to have people to talk to and rely on in stressful situations. So again, I also love my individual. I love my me time. I do, but we also do need to rely on others, and even just trusting ourselves of being like, I'm not okay, and I need to kind of discuss this with someone before it gets further. Yeah, no, I love that we were able to. We didn't expect to turn into like a mental health type of route, but I love that we did. No, I love that we did. Where do you want to end your career then? I know I know you're still young, and as am I, but we're still trying to, yeah, right. Look,
navigate through life.
Yeah, our young no makeup faces here.
Are you calling me ugly?
No, I'm calling.
I'm kidding.
I'm calling myself it. No.
So originally I applied for dispatching in this particular town. Or city, sorry. I called it a town the other day too, and I was like, this is weird. So
because you grew up in a town, you're used to it.
Yeah. I applied for the city just to get experience, and I really didn't think I would fall in love with dispatching. But I took the municipal police exam back in March. And then results came out literally the day I got my letter, so on the 27th of May, on my birthday. And so I'm sitting in the parking lot, like freaking out. And so I got my letter, and the passing score was a 70, and I placed, I think it was a 95 on my exam out of 100.
Wow.
For the city. And the city was out of 815 candidates.
Yeah.
So I looked at the ranks. The ranks came out in, I think, July, and I'm top 25 for the city out of 815. And then after veteran status of all the veterans before me, I'm top 8 in the city, which is crazy to me because I would have never, ever thought that I could place so high on a list out of 815 other people.
Yeah, that's remarkable. Wow.
So I could potentially go to the police academy in January, depending if I get a letter from this city, or surrounding towns, depending on who I want to put on my list. I think I'm going to put, I can't even say surrounding towns. I'm going to put a prior place that I used to work at that was for data analytics back in 2021, because I loved that police station in that town. It was a very small town. That was actually a town, though. So I'm going to put that. I'm going to put maybe some surrounding towns. And then, because they're not, the only city around here is, so.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping to stay in dispatch for at least a year, potentially, depending if they give me a letter. I want to defer. I'll probably take the exam again, depending if I can or can't defer. And then, or if I want to, I don't know how it's going to change, But in September, it takes a long time, but I was going to apply for the FBI or like a higher federal law enforcement status. So I maybe want to become a special agent or someone within like data or something like that. So maybe the FBI or the CSI.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well,
But
well,
that's my reach. My
that
reach.
well, I mean, hopefully you get there. It would be pretty cool to not only say I have Miss America, but I also have a secret agent on the show. I could be like, oh yeah, she was on the show. So no, that's incredible. That's awesome. So sounds like you have your head on right, and I mean, we definitely will be on the lookout for it. I mean, we'll obviously stay in touch, and we'll try to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
If you want coffee or
yeah. Hopefully, if you are big, I'm just saying, don't forget us little people here.
Oh no, of course not. You gotta always remember your roots, and that's something I still remember that girl when I was younger. That if I could go back at any point, like I did not think I would be where I am today. I wouldn't be here, honestly, if it wasn't for my parents or my siblings or competing in pageants and making me like just so confident in myself and my abilities, like just applying for different positions and then also interviewing skills and being able to present yourself in a room full of people. I would have never thought I'd be here. And for everything to just be on a really good note so far. No breakdowns yet. But I wish I could go back and just like watch. Like I'm losing my train of thought, and just like watch and like just the simpler times of not coming home until 5 o'clock at night and coming home for dinner and then immediately going back outside and playing versus technology now. Everyone has a phone in their hand.
Yeah. I didn't grow up in that.
No.
I grew up in the summertime. We had to be outside or we were inside doing chores.
Exactly.
Like are you kidding? Like I hate my phone. I hate that thing. Like I mean it's helpful, but I mean like.
But we're so keen now to. I feel bad for saying this, but we're so keen now to all the likes, all of the text messages,
Yes. Yeah.
all of the like. I'm strictly like if you text me, I will answer. But like if you call me or FaceTime me, I'll answer that in a heartbeat. I'm like, hey, what's up? Like
same. I prefer you call me. I mean, I do answer texts obviously as well, but no, I agree with you. It's like one of those things where it's like I'm an adult. I'm not insecure. I don't need to worry about like this.
Yeah,
like
and
this
I
type.
think that's my like why I haven't posted to my Instagram is because I realized when COVID hit, I was like, is this even worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth putting a front up on social media and acting like somebody? Because if you think about it, I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to offend a lot of people, but everyone's Instagrams, or for instance, I don't have a fake Instagram account.
Okay.
But people have fake Instagram accounts that are called Finstas, right? Do you know what that is?
I think I just so I think I know what they are, but I don't think my age group because
How old are you?
I'm only a few years older than you.
Okay. So
yeah.
you should know. You should know a little bit.
I know what they are, but I don't think no, because Instagram wasn't big until I was already graduated high school.
Yeah, you were out of high school.
I was out of high school when Instagram was when
like senior when Instagram became like the big thing, and I was like,
and that's what it was like. It was like my last year of it would have been my last year of college. If when Instagram was like that big of a deal. So yeah, no, it wasn't. Twitter was really big.
Oh, I love Twitter.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I love Twitter. I was always popping off on Twitter. Yeah.
So this is going to be the unpopular opinion, but people will create fake Instagram accounts to show their real side. And then if you look at their actual Instagram account, it's just a front. Nobody ever looks like that. Like, if I was to show you my Instagram account, as horrible as it sounds, that's a front, you know? Like, you want to put your best foot forward and be this perfect person.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, like, it should be flip-flopped. Like,
Yeah.
your fake Instagram account should be the one that you put the front on, and your real one should be the one that, like, you're candid, you're funny, like, oh, you know, you went to see the sunrise the other day, look at this cool seashell. Like the random stuff, your friends flipping off of boats or something, like jumping off a building, like something crazy with a bungee cord.
Yes.
I gotta preface that. But you know, like, everybody's so in tune nowadays to be so perfect and get over 600 likes or over 100 retweets or something like that. And we're so keen now just to sit there and watch everything happen and like see your phone blow up and be like, oh my God, people actually care about me. But at the end of the day, if you don't get any messages, how does that make you feel?
There's not even genuine conversations anymore.
No.
There's not even like it's like, hey, how's your day? Cool. All right, awesome. Thank you. Do anything cool? Yeah, I worked. Oh, great. Yeah, me too. It's like,
and I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so
hey,
am
you
I,
want to go
yeah.
do something?
Yeah, I'm the
Let's
total
go
opposite.
Like, let's go shopping. Let's go. You want to go to Six Flags, or like, you want to go go-karting? I don't know. I'm trying to think of cool things around here because
You want to go mini golf? Yeah.
I love mini golfing. Don't talk trash about mini golf.
No, I suggested that. That was a suggestion. No, I totally know what you mean. Like, it's like one of those things where like that's actually a valid point too about like the Finsta and like the like how like people have a fake account for their real stuff when it's like 9 times out of 10 I actually would prefer seeing the real stuff, like the random cool seashell that looks like a foot. Like I want to see that over, you know, not saying that I don't really care much about people's lives, but that's why also I hate that you need social media to like, I don't really even like to say, yeah, I hate that I say need. I hate that, like, especially for like my field, right? Like social media is like really big because it's like, that's how you get people to notice you and talk to you and things like that. But in a lot of cases, like, there's so many cases where you get follows and you're like, I don't even know who this person is.
Exactly.
Like, I prefer to make friends and then being like, oh, these are the people. This is my circle, and it's like this. That's me. But I think we're cut from a different cloth. I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not in with these kids, even though I am a kid.
These TikTok dances that I don't know how to do.
Yeah. No. See. All right. Now that's something that the other day I was I'm still in touch with one of my high school teachers, and one of the things she said to me was, you know, if TikTok was around when you were in high school, we probably
we had 9.
I didn't know that. I like I said, it was, for me it was like I was into.
Take that screenshot of my face doing that, please don't.
No. We all do like a silly face. But no, Lindsey, I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you doing this, especially on your off day. Means a lot to me. I know we've been trying to get something going for a little bit now, but we made it work. We made it work. Mr. Massachusetts and Miss Massachusetts got together and we made a podcast. We did.
Oh, it was great. I've been thinking of starting my own podcast. Down the road.
You totally should. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. I do that with all my friends that are like, oh, I want to start a podcast. I'm like, let me know what I can do to help because it's
I've
fun.
Had a thought. I think it's going to be called Crowns and Chaos.
Crowns and Chaos. I like it.
Like, isn't that like edgy? Like, you know,
it is edgy.
Like, just like, because then if you think about it, like, pageant side of me and then everything else.
Yeah.
And like just have all different types of people, whether it's like my friends or like, you know, people within like the career field or people who are just doing like somewhat like you're doing. Like you talk to all different types of people and you leave a mark.
Or self-proclaimed Mr. Master. This is completely self-proclaimed. I obviously I never won an award. I know I think people forgot, but I've been wearing this the entire time.
I love it. I can go grab mine.
Yeah, grab yours real quick, just for the visual.
Just for the visual. This is the little visual I have. The special box.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Just full special box, full send right now.
I didn't have my tiara. I didn't have a tiara. I tried to look at Party City. I tried to look real quick.
This is my beautiful competition card.
What? That is
I
legit.
will be sending one to you.
That is legit. Yeah, send that.
Definitely send one to you with my signature. And this is the beauty and the grace of. I haven't worn it in a little bit, but here she is.
There she is.
Backwards. I'm holding it wrong. This is so embarrassing. There she is. Miss Massachusetts volunteer.
So now we can officially look at that. We can officially say.
Bedazzle yours.
What'd you say?
I'm gonna have to bedazzle yours.
Yeah, you will. You'll have to bedazzle mine. Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh
Here's
my
the
god.
Fit.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I'm glad we were able to both show off our sashes. Oh, you have your look at it.
You too.
Is it a tutu or tiara? I said tiara.
So I call them crowns, but somebody said that this is a tiara.
Okay, yeah.
And you're not supposed to. Here, I'll do some nice balancing action. We'll just put this down here. So you're supposed to pin it in your head.
Oh.
Which I'm trying to remember.
Some spikes in your head, right? Like
yeah,
spike.
So if you look at it, there's like 3 holes, and I personally people put like rubber bands or something like that, but I just use bobby pins, and I'll just bobby pin it.
Yeah.
If I can. I look a little lopsided, but you would bobby pin it in your head, and then you're like, it's like a full metal jacket.
Okay. Yeah.
Like.
No, the best I do is a rally cap with my hat inside out.
Stop! I love that. When the Red Sox lose.
Yeah, rally cap. That's me.
This, at the end of the day, is my beauteous. This is the prettiest crown I've ever worn.
That is a nice
difficult.
crown.
It's so difficult to wear because you have to like pin it directly to your head. And if you ever ask me what's in my crown box, it's a whole bunch of stuff in here. Too much stuff. I have a Sharpie. I have teeth whitening. I have millions of dollars. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I wish, right?
No.
Share some over here.
My friend actually, we did a pot for our police station, and we won $526.
Wow. There you go. So
and then we put it towards.
Wait, 526 exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, like $526.83 to the last cent, to the T.
Last cent, the single cent. But yeah, so that's the beauteous, as my hair is all messed up now. Shouldn't have done that. But.
Yeah, that's why I refuse to take my hat off and put on a rally cap. I refuse. All right, yeah, hold on. You're holding up your mask? All right.
Well,
there you go.
Super cute.
There you go. Love it.
My pride and joy. I'm going to be so sad when I have to crown a successor.
I will send you my sash, and you can bedazzle it and all that. But that's it. We're wrapped for today. I really appreciate you doing this again. Follow wherever you get your show, or hit that subscribe button, whatever you call it nowadays. Follow our YouTube page as well. And as always, may you live, may you love, and may you thrive. I love you all. What's going on, my friends? I want to tell you about a new business in which I recently discovered called CT Jitters. It's a new and creative business looking to offer people different experiences in tasting coffee in New England. They have a wide variety of different coffee beans from other countries such as Brazil, Peru, Honduras, Colombia, in which they brew with multiple different techniques as well. CT Jitters strives to be as eco-friendly as possible. They love animals and they are very dog-friendly. They make homemade healthy dog treats and paw-shaped homemade natural soaps along with other different shapes. They are eager to see the world and are currently popping up at local farmers markets, fairs, and much more in the New England area. Please be sure to check them out.